Hello, darlings, and welcome to another episode of Over Underrated. Why am I being so flamboyant, so theatrical? You might ask. Well, that is the theme of today's episode. Again, the themes are getting looser, but the chat remains good. We're going to be talking about theatrical Americans with Prince as overrated and Jill Tracy as underrated. And we're not alone. We're joined by Dr. Becky Alexis-Martin and Annie Greatorex to discuss who they like, who they don't like, and much more. So welcome on the journey. Grab your feather boa and join us on a trip to America.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, what are we calling this podcast?
Was it over underrated?
Over underrated. Sous-évalué. Überschätzt. Överunderskattad. Over underrated.
Welcome to Over Underrated, your favourite music podcast with Fran and Babs. It is I, Fran. So, Babs, have you had a lovely day?
Thank you. I'm just laughing at the big introduction there. The best music podcast. My God, are we getting arrogant on season 5?
I mean, I'm hoping they've only heard this podcast.
I think some people have. Yeah, I'm doing well. It was my birthday yesterday, and all I did was eat and drink, basically, which was lovely. How about you?
I have been in a sweaty office all day, but enough about me. What music have you been listening to this week?
You really don't want to talk about it. So this week I've been listening to Injury Reserve again. So they are one of the few bands that James Acaster introduced me to in the 2016 book. And I listened to their 2016 album, Floss, I think it was called, but hadn't ventured elsewhere. But I Shazammed one of their songs, Jailbreak the Tesla, this week, and it's their 2019 album. And I've been listening to that recently. How about you?
I'm going to a festival on the weekend, so I'm doing my pre-festival research. I've been listening to some Suede. Oh. I've been listening to some Editors who have a new single out called Kiss. And I've been listening to some Sam Fender and the new Hot Chip album.
Okay, very good. But we're not alone here to talk about music, are we, Fran?
No, we have a couple of guests. Yes, 2 guests. Not for the first time. We have Dr. Becky and your friend. Is it Annie?
It's Greatorex.
Thank you so much for helping me. And what have you been listening to this week?
Well, I'm excited about the new Yeah Yeah Yeahs music. Hot Chip.
What?
Yes, apparently there is a new Yeah Yeahs album coming out soon. So I've been desperately trying to find out what's happening with it. I have been impressed by the new Hot Chip stuff that I found online, which is very good. And I've been listening to lots of Niels Fram, but I always listen to lots of Niels Fram and Stevie Wonder because he's my driving music. You know, you've got to have something for a drive. So yeah, and he goes on for a drive. So yeah. Very good. Varied.
Annie, have you been listening to anything?
Yes, it's a slightly weird one because I've been working on a piece of my own, so I've been listening to a lot of sea shanties and music hall songs recently.
Love it.
Covering a gamut here with the music we've been listening to this week, guys. Very good.
Are you going to watch the Fishman Friends film?
Possibly. I like the first one, and the music is fantastic.
I'm a big fan of the Cough Suite. Maybe not a reference for our international listeners. But yeah, no, I quite like the first one. I wasn't sure if it needs to be a sequel. Is it maybe stretching it a little bit too much?
Possibly. Yeah.
Maybe. So you have chosen this week's topic. What tenuous link are we going for?
I mean, I put theatrical Americans in the... Theatrical flamboyant Americans. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I go with that one.
Yeah, we agree. Definitely very flamboyant, very American. So yes.
Would you like to introduce your choices?
Yes. So I'm Becky, as we mentioned earlier, and my selection for the overrated artist is somebody who's perhaps one of the more controversial individuals who's been included on the overrated list. I have gone for pop royalty. I've gone for Prince.
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. And for our underrated,
I have gone for American singer songwriter, although I feel that she's more than that. Jill Tracy, who is very theatrical and not that well known, as far as I'm aware.
So more about her later on. Let's start with Prince. Becky, tell us what you know about Prince and your background regarding him.
I have an incredibly complex relationship with Prince. I think I would begin by exploring and considering his wonderful, brilliant, talented music and his amazing songs that he's written for other artists. You know, from Sinead O'Connor to the Bangles, he has produced some outrageously powerful songs. And do you know what makes them powerful? They're carefully written, the cadences are just right, the melody is spot on, and they are just the right length. So my challenge with Prince, the reason why he is in the overrated pile today, is not for his talent. He is clearly a talented multi-instrumentalist. He should know what he's doing. He understands his craft. And not just that, he inspired a whole music scene. And he's a cultural icon. But he could have been all that and have an incredibly memorable and almost perfect repertoire if he had just made every song 2 minutes shorter. So my issue with Prince, my reason why I feel as though he's overrated, is because he has the capacity. He's like that child at school. You know, when you get the report and it says, has talent, could try harder, or talks too much in class. I bet that was on his report when he was younger. So he's incredibly talented. But his music that he prepared and performed for himself descends into these oversexed soliloquies, is the only way to describe it, really, where, you know, he's like pumping away, the solo is going, he's waffling on, and before you know it, 7 minutes have passed. But you know that those 7 minutes have passed because you felt every second of the last couple of minutes. So that is why Prince is in my bad books.
So would you say that he maybe tries too hard?
He tried beyond too hard. I think he was, to some extent, self-indulgent. And he didn't write his music for his audience, but perhaps for himself. I know, which is a controversial perspective, because perhaps we should all write our music for our audience and ourselves. And, you know, perhaps there shouldn't be a dichotomy there, but I feel as though he had that talent. He showed he had that talent with other songwriters. And then when it came to himself, it was just, you know, high notes and twiddly solos. So yes.
Annie, do you have similar feelings, or what's your thoughts on Prince?
Similar feelings. I must admit, I had to remind myself of Prince's music when Becky picked it, because it's never been on my playlist, and he's always been one of those people, if he's come on at a party or something, I'm like, it's fine. But I don't think the music should just be, it's fine. But I do appreciate his showmanship and his style, the way he approaches stuff. So yeah, a bit like Becky, there's some good bits and some bad bits with him.
Any songs you like stand out?
Not really. This is the other thing I have with him. It's one of those that there aren't that many of his songs that I'm like, oh yes, that's Prince.
Okay. Could it be a generation? I guess I'm the oldest person here, so maybe I grew up in the Prince era of the 80s and 90s. So Babs, what's your Prince thoughts?
So yeah, my Prince thoughts, you know, I've always felt like I've been missing something with him because, you know, as Becky said, he's clearly talented. He's clearly very original. You know, obviously inspired by kind of, I guess, Little Richard and Jimi Hendrix in terms of looks. And I did look at all the music videos for the songs as well to kind of, I've got comments on his style and looks as well, right? And there's not many male pop stars who you can do that with. And I feel similarly to him as I do with David Bowie, where I'm like, okay, I think the reason why so many people are into Prince, it's got, you know, it's more than the music, right? Like it has to be more than the music because of how he looks. And as Annie said, his showmanship. And I think my feeling was like, okay, he was I'm going to say the OG short king, you know, like he was 1.57 m. Don't know what that is in feet and inches. I'm guessing that's like 5'3", 5'4", something like that. And he was someone who, was clearly very androgynous, very sexual, but also championed female musicians. You know, he had this backing band, was it the Revolution, that kind of was deliberately kind of multi-gender, multiracial, etc. So I thought like, okay, he seems like someone who was ahead of his time and was surprisingly accepted given the times that he was singing in. And I do love the quote that I don't know who said it, of Prince will steal your girl, steal her clothes, then steal another girl wearing your girl's clothes. But musically, yeah, I think I don't know that many of his songs. He's one of those, he's had 39 studio albums, 39. And I know so few songs, and some of them I really like, including, you know, where one or so on this playlist. You know, looking at the kind of statistics that I will bring in later about, you know, how many awards he's won and all that kind of stuff, it is kind of incredible how how popular he is for, you know, as Annie said, being like, oh, it's, you know, it's mostly fine. And yeah, I find it very interesting what Becky said about twiddly guitar solos and falsettos. I think that's definitely true as well. How about you, Fran?
So yeah, I remember in the 80s, I was a bit scared of him.
Yeah.
Like as a 7-year-old, he was a bit too. What's happening here?
Face,
so and like I remember people at school, like I was from that age when people at school were saying, "There's a rumor he can suck his own penis." So I'm that age. So to me, it's like, I don't think I'm ready for Prince yet. That seems a bit too sexy for me. So like, yes, obviously I knew, like, you know, Purple Rain and, you know, Doves That Cry, and I remember Batdance. I remember vividly because, as a film fan, I was so excited to see Batman. So when it had like clips of the film and audio, I was like, oh my God, how exciting. And then in the 90s, I probably got more into him. And then before you know it, he changed his name, well, to nothing. And then, you know, he was arguing with record companies. And then he just, through the noughties, he just seemed to bring out like box set after box set with like 1,000 songs. And like I lost track because it's just too much. So like after 1995, I probably know one Prince song because it's just too much. And like I thought, well, you know, where do I start? I'm not going to bother listening to a 6 CD box set because, I mean, I had free time back in the noughties, but not that much free time. But yeah, and then later on in the noughties, I then discovered his new wave period, like his early 80s stuff, and I loved that. So I think for me, my Prince is like 1980 to 1984 Prince, but I guess he's got many different eras. And like I guess when he first started out, he's a bit more of an R&B soul, and then he discovered, you know, makeup, heels, keyboards, and he became a different guy. But yeah, I don't really, I own the best of Prince. I don't adore him, but I will say that one of my biggest mistakes in my music life was he did a run at the O2 in maybe the 2003 or 4, and I wanted to go, but then it was so much hassle back in those days to try and buy tickets for your friends. I cancelled it and went to Fort Park instead. And on that trip, the log flume broke down whilst I was on it. And for health and safety reasons, they had to drain the entire log flume. It took 2 hours whilst teenagers threw bottles of Coke at me. After waiting for 2 hours in the heat, they gave me one voucher to skip the queue. So thank you, Fort Park. And then never saw Prince because he died. So there we go, a heartbreaking story. And so yeah, that is my Prince story. So Becky, you've made a playlist. Do you want to tell us why you've chosen these songs, what your process was?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a listen through his back catalogue.
All 39 albums?
No, not all 39 albums. I'm
shocked to hear that.
But I had a couple of days of him in the background in Spotify, and just to kind of catch the ones that caught my ear for, you know, better or worse. And I also had a listen to his covers album as well. So he did an album of covers that was released in, I think it was 2019, posthumously, that features music by artists who covered him or have produced, I say covers, I mean songs that have been written by him that other artists have performed. And I think that was the point where I really noticed the discrepancy. I realised that there's quite a lot of music. I realised before there was quite a lot of music he'd written that generally women have performed actually beautifully, that I'd really enjoyed. And then when it came to his own stuff, I had a more contentious perspective, and I think it's a shame in a way, because I like his image. I like the way he was so queer and outrageous, as you said, at a time when it wasn't commonplace, or as commonplace. I mean, if you think about the early 80s in a way, you know, you had David Bowie, you had kind of the new wave, you had the new romantics, you had that kind of made up look. So I don't know if he was so, I don't know if it was so extraordinary. I think the fact that he continued that look as long as he did is quite extraordinary.
Yeah, there wasn't many black artists doing
Yeah,
that sort of look
no,
back
yeah.
in those days.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. He was very good. Yeah, so my list is I've got When Doves Cry, I've got Batdance, I've got The Greatest Romance Ever Sold, I've got I Hate You, spelt with EYE at the beginning, and I've got, this is the one that I think is going to upset several people out there. I'm sorry, I have my opinions. Maybe I shouldn't try and persuade me otherwise. I won't be persuaded. The Most Beautiful Girl in the World, which for me is, I just find it incredibly great. I don't like
We can come back to that in a minute. Your hatred.
Yeah, don't worry. We will give you space for that. Don't worry.
Overrated.
So we go from the top. So we start with When Doves Cry.
I just felt it deserved a place here. After careful consideration, it's an epic. It is a saga, and I feel as though it doesn't really, as though it keeps going. It keeps going. It is one of the longest, pieces of music I would normally kind of, I'd listen to. I would say it's like a single song. I think it's like 7 minutes, maybe more. It doesn't really go anywhere. I feel I was kind of listening to it, and it starts with pomp, and it starts in a way that kind of makes you think, well, this is going to be something quite exciting. It's going to go somewhere. It's going to provide you a really interesting narrative. Maybe it's going to be like Prince's version of Bohemian Rhapsody, but it never gets there. It lacks the different it lacks the kind of interest, in my opinion, to kind of keep somebody engaged, but that's just my perspective, so yes. So that's why I don't like When Doves Cry. And also, what kind of title is When Doves Cry? Have you ever seen a dove cry?
Not recently.
No.
Maybe they cry internally. Annie, what are your thoughts on When Doves Cry?
I think I'm in a similar camp to Becky in that it is a big epic piece, and yet I can never remember what it sounds like when it's done. And so I think it's that same thing, is because things like Bohemian Rhapsody you can always remember, but it never sticks in my head. So I feel like it's a lot of fuss for not much really in the end.
Have you seen the video?
No, I haven't.
Babs, do you want to talk about the video?
Gosh, yeah, the video opens with Prince in a bath in a purple room. There are doves everywhere. He's kind of naked wandering around, and he's doing all sorts in the video. He's on a motorcycle, he's dressed up. Yeah. Have you seen Purple Rain, the film, any of you?
I have, yeah.
And what's it like? 'Cause it's related to that, isn't it?
Yeah, so this kind of was the trailer for the film. This is why it has like the motorbike. Although I think this was stolen by the Flake commercials. Do people remember the Flake commercials when the ladies in the bath? Yeah, but they're Prince. They stole Prince's idea there. Yeah, but Purple Rain is apparently an awesome film according to critics. I would say it's pretty shit, but that's just my opinion. But he's also made Graffiti Bridge, which is even worse.
So why is it pretty shit? Is it self-indulgent? Yeah,
and he's not a great for a charismatic performer. He has no charisma when he acts at all.
But I mean, he's quite you sent an interview, Fran, of Prince.
Yeah,
he's an awkward man. He's an awkward, soft-spoken man when he hasn't got an instrument in front of him. So it doesn't.
And that's why he refused to do interviews afterwards. Like that destroyed him when he saw that. So that's why he went back into the mystery, because he didn't want that to happen again.
Fair enough, really. But I have to say, I love the song. I really love the song, and I hadn't heard the album version before, so I think I'd only ever heard the single version. So the fact that it ends on this kind of, I call it like electric harpsichord solo, and there's even more screams, which I'm sure Becky and Anna you hated, but I thought it worked quite well. So I enjoyed listening to it again, and I enjoyed learning about the fact that it was actually a song written on request. So the director of the Purple Rain film, he said, Prince, can you write a song to match the theme of a particular segment, which talks about a love affair, but also having issues with your parents. And you know what have you got to say? Prince delivered, right? You know, just as like his father, just like his mother. And I think, you know, the beginning, the lyrics are sexy. The sweat of your body covers me. Dream if you can, a courtyard, an ocean of violets and bloom. Animals strike curious poses. They feel the heat between me and you. So I think it's a great song. I will say though that, as so many of the overrated artists that we discussed, the accolades are astounding. So it was ranked 35 in Rolling Stone's list of 500 greatest songs, and it's included in their 500 songs that shaped rock and roll. And I don't know by what metric this has been measured, but according to Acclaimed Music, it is the 31st most celebrated song in popular musical history, which I'm like, okay, like, it's good, but it's not that good. Fran?
And no bass.
No bass. Yeah, you're right.
This is crazy for us. I, like Becky said earlier, I like it for 2 minutes. So the keyboard riff,
the drums,
and the drums, the atmosphere, the lyrics, but by the time he's screaming near the end, I'm lost.
I remember playing it at home and my mother opening the door and wondering what was going wrong, and, you know, checking on me to make sure I hadn't injured myself.
I think one of Prince's problems is that he maybe needed an outside producer sometimes, because, you know, he the purple one couldn't rein it in. That's my worst pun I've done. So I think this is a sort of song that, like, when you think about it, oh yeah, I love that song, but when you actually listen to it again, it's like, oh, okay, it's good up to a point, but I would probably have skipped it after 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay,
personally.
I'm the lone fan of the Baroque harpsichord solo, whatever the hell it was.
You're not alone, because apparently it's the 31st.
Yeah, well, I'm alone in this chat, but that's okay. I'll go and talk to my friends on the internet.
So moving on to Batdance.
Batdance. Yes. Again, it's another one of those pieces that was popularized by film. I think people have really fond memories of kind of these old films. Sorry, they are old now. And
one second. Am I the only person here who's old enough to remember the film coming out in 1989?
Yes.
Well, yes.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember it when I was older, but like when you know, in the 90s, as kind of something you'd watch on TV. I just feel that with Batdance, it's jumbled, and the excerpts that are kind of smashed into the music from the film, and these little sound bites could have been done more elegantly, and I wonder whether he kind of shoved it together as a commission for some pocket money, and didn't really think about what he was doing during the process. To be honest, it's I don't know, it's not his finest piece. Although saying that, it was produced, as you said, in 1989, and so therefore it was quite, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was quite a pioneering approach to use sound bites within a within a piece of music in that way. But I don't know, again, it's got that kind of bravado almost, and it doesn't really have much dignity. I mean, I know it's not really...
Not the word I was expecting to hear.
Annie, have you ever danced a Batdance?
I have, actually.
Have you?
But this one, I did. It's musically, I'm not that fond of it, but it does have a slight nostalgic kind of pull to me, because I just remember watching all the current Batman films in a row with someone's sleepover when we were teenagers. And so in my head, it takes me back to being like 15 again, and trying not to show to my friends that I'm absolutely petrified of the Joker and the Penguin and all the other villains in the things, particularly the Joker. So it's a funny one. I'm not that bothered by it musically, but it does have a kind of pleasant nostalgic feel to me when I hear it.
I can't even remember in the film where it's used. Is it over the end credits? Because it doesn't really fit.
I haven't a clue. I'm assuming it was a very long time ago, and I haven't watched the Batman series films since, because I do have an issue with most of the villains in it. They just scare me too much.
Babs, have you seen Batman? Are you a fan of Batdance?
No, I'm not a fan of Batman. I'm not a fan of superhero films in general. The only Batman I've seen is The Dark Knight, and I thought it was fine. Nothing special, to be honest, which I know again puts me in a minority. And I did not know this song at all, and I loved it because it was a fever dream, but in a good way. Like, I think, Annie, you were saying that when doves cry, you had no idea what it's about. With Batdance, my God, what the hell is going on? And so I was listening to it and I was like, what on earth do I like this? Do I not? So I had to kind of give it a few listens. And then I saw the accompanying music video, which is the campest thing on earth. And it just kind of upped it for me. So yeah, so thank you for introducing me to this, because it's totally new to me and I absolutely loved it.
You see, whereas I'd have preferred the music video to have been a silent film, I totally agree with you. It's an incredibly elegant piece of cinematography, hilarious, and that it would have been better without the kind of audio narrative, in my opinion. So, yes.
I had not heard this song for 30 odd years, and it is a lot worse hearing it now than when I did as a kid. Like, I'm gonna be, especially the bit when he goes, "Stop depressed. Who is she, Vicky Vale?" And that song completely changes. Like, who's actually dancing to this? Like, can you actually dance to the Batdance? Because it keeps changing it. It keeps changing every 4 seconds. It does seem like he's got some new toys and Prince is just having a laugh and saying, "Oh, I've got a sampler button. Let's sample as much as possible." It's got a lovely introduction. I love the first 10 seconds. And then after that, I struggle. It's kind of like Emperor's New Clothes. I think because it was using all this new technology and it was quite exciting, I think people enjoyed it. But I don't know many people who would probably go back and listen to Batdance. I'm not even sure if it's even on the best of, to be fair, even though it was a US #1 hit. But I always used to think, if you were listening to Prince and you brought, a date home, and then suddenly Batdance came on,
I'd leave. I'd be like, "Thanks, okay, bye."
Ending with that Joker laugh at the end of it.
But yeah, I mean, I saw that he sampled at least 7 songs, right? And some which then turned up on later albums. So yeah, I think, as you say, impressive stuff. I mean, but I enjoyed it. Like you said, not one for a date, not one to listen to calm down to, nor dance to, but one to kind of sit and think about the meaning of existence, I think.
But were you shocked to know this was a massive #1 hit?
I had no idea it was this big. Yeah, I would have never guessed something so avant-garde would have been. But he was so big already at the time. This is the thing. So
I did miss those days when artists would make a song for film. We've kind of lost that. You get it with Bond, but it doesn't happen anymore.
Listen, I've mentioned this before. Honestly, the Twilight film soundtracks, Radiohead, St. Vincent, Muse, so good.
Yeah, but were those songs written for the film?
They were.
Oh, really?
They're songs that aren't elsewhere, as far as I know.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, The Antidote by St. Vincent, one of my all-time favourite songs from the Twilight soundtrack.
So that's a gear shift to the next song, Becky.
Yes, the greatest romance ever sold. It's so romantic. No, it really isn't. It's another glorious, vainglorious waffle, I would say. I don't know, it's kind of, I'd say it's Prince at his worst. It's taken all of the characteristics that make him Prince, channeled them, essentialized them, and turned them into something that shouldn't have been written and shouldn't have kind of gone out there. And at the same time, it's somehow a bit insipid. So what's your thoughts, so? What's your perspective on the greatest romance that's ever sold?
Well, should we ask Annie first?
I think I'm kind of with Becky. I don't get the romance feel to it, and so as someone who does like a good smoochy romance thing, it doesn't work for me at all. And it waffles to me.
Babs, this is a late 90s Prince. Had you heard of this at all, this song?
I had not. I had no idea really about R&B Prince, to be honest, because when I think of what are the Prince songs that I know and hear a lot, it's 1999, Raspberry Beret, When Doves Cry. So I was surprised that he did this kind of R&B with some Arabic strings. Like there's something else going on that he's experimenting with.
He abuses the Aeolian mode, if you ask me. Seriously, somebody shouldn't have let that man near it. So yeah.
But I think, I do. I think it, rationally, kind of unemotionally, it definitely displays his versatility. And I quite like how random instruments come in, because it kind of surprises you. It doesn't quite go in the direction that you think it's going in. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan. I was interested to see when reading up about the album, which is called Rave Into, the number 2, The Joy Fantastic. That album has duets with Eve, Gwen Stefani, Annie DeFranco, Chuck D, and Sheryl Crow, which I'm like, oh, that's quite an interesting selection of people. And the fact that I don't know any of those songs, and I'm sure this is probably not the only album that he's collaborated with other people with, but yeah, I don't know about it. And I was also interested to read that this album wasn't initially released commercially. Instead, an internet subscription service, NPG Music Club, issued the album via mail. And I will add that in the music video, there's a scene where he's got some really good purple tiger print eyeshadow, which I appreciated.
And he had gone back to being Prince suddenly, I think, for this album.
Yeah, I haven't followed the whole chronology of when he's the love symbol and when he's not. So.
I think it became a symbol around 93 when it was his dirty hip hoppy kind of era. Mm-hmm. That was when he became a symbol, and then he went back in the late 90s to being Prince.
It's funny what you say about kind of growing up with him, because I feel like I knew more about what was going on in his life than I knew his music. So I feel like I remember vaguely hearing about, he's a symbol, he's not a symbol. But I would say since 95 or something, I would not have known a single song that he did then on.
For someone who wrote about, the 1999, and this album came out in 1999, it's not exactly a disco romp, is it, really?
Not at all.
His 1982 song was more hip than this one. I had never heard the song before. I remember the album cover at work because it stands out massively with a big blue, is it a cat suit he's wearing in the album cover or something? But yeah, it sounds like a parody of Prince. It's too polished, but it's uninspired. It's like he was in the 80s. He was always pushing forward and being an edgy artist, and by now it's like, oh, this is Prince.
Yeah, but I guess kind of R&B was popular then, right? So is he doing what David Bowie did as well, where it's like, okay, David Bowie went down the industrial rock route because that was kind of one of the sounds of the moment, and Prince has just gone to another. But
I guess his first two albums are R&B, really.
I don't know.
Yeah, he's just gone full circle, but unfortunately, obviously didn't. So yeah, it's a no from me. So what's the next track, Becky?
It's I Hate You, it's just really disappointing. It's one of those. How would I describe it? It has a real 90s feel to it, I would say. And it begins with this almost kind of like fake court case, which is really perturbing, actually. I mean, of course, you're not going to expect, sunshine and kittens from a song called I Hate You. But it's quite a strange song, really. When you kind of listen to it and it begins with, you've got something like, I think it's, you are welcomed to the hate experience. And you're like, oh my goodness, I've only just dealt with the fact that, the Prince experience. And now we have the hate experience. And what are we going to get? It has many cliches. It has so many cliches. I didn't know you could fit so many cliches into one song. It is tremendously impressive, actually, from that perspective. And the bit I like best, or rather, I don't know whether I like it. The bit I feel is most deserving of inclusion in this blacklist is the section where they talk about the court, and he sings, the court is now in session, would the defendant please rise, state your name for the court. Never mind, Billy Jack bitch, you're being charged with 2 of many counts of heartbreaking in the first degree. It's just
beautiful.
It's just much. It is unnecessary. I've reserved my lyric quoting. I've held off until this point because we know that his lyrics are often absolutely ridiculous. And that is one of the, as when we think about, for instance, like Purple Rain, it's one of the things that maybe makes it quite enjoyable, actually, is the fact that it's vibrant and insubstantial, but really kind of interesting to listen to, really fun to listen to. Whereas with this one, I Hate You, I feel like he should have stuck to the love songs. He should have stuck to the more kind of joyful side of life. And so this deviation didn't really didn't really show the best of him as a man. So this is why I Hate You has got him on my overrated list.
Is there any reason why he changed the eye to the physical eye, or was that just him having a laugh?
I think that's probably just him having a laugh. You know,
He likes to play around, doesn't he, with letters and stuff,
yeah. He was like, he'd have been like, I imagine his texts in the early 2000s would have been phenomenal. Can you imagine, you know, the text speak he probably invented text speak, you know.
He would have loved an emoji.
Giving him credit.
That's it. I was thinking I hope he used, you know, I hope he had a smartphone and used emojis.
Annie, had you ever heard I Hate You before?
No, it's not one that I've ever heard before, and I quite happily will never necessarily hear it again.
Spoiler. Okay.
Yeah. I couldn't, like Becky, it just couldn't gel with me. And when I like Prince, I like him because he's being upbeat and he's fun and it's, you know, it's a mood, and it just, I didn't get the mood and I didn't feel it. Plus the fact of having a rational hatred of text speak, which doesn't help when you see it written down.
Saying that though, it would make extraordinarily good music for, I don't know, early 90s teenagers to cry in their bedrooms to. So I think this served a very important purpose. It has a legacy, it has a place in history, and it has become totally irrelevant since then. In fact, this is probably the first time anybody's discussed it. You know,
I doubt it.
Babs, are you a big fan?
No, I think the only thing that I was a fan of was the weird fax noises at the beginning. And I'm not a fan of this 90s R&B Prince. This is I enjoyed this much less than The Greatest Romance. But what I did find, which I wasn't expecting, the speak singing bit, you know, kind of especially in the court, it made me realize where Flight of the Conchords get a lot of their shtick from. It really, really reminded me of, especially Charmaine from Flight of the Conchords, which I didn't expect. But yeah, again, another interesting one to read into, because you know, in the music video, he's got slave written on his face, and that's apparently related to Warner Brothers because he went back to them, and there was maybe you know more about this, Fran, and you can tell us. But what I found quite disturbing was reading about the woman in the music video who was his wife, who he met when she was 16. He then took her on as her legal guardian and bought her like a flat in Minneapolis. And then when she was 19, he instructed her to go on birth control so they could start having sex. So I was like, okay, so Prince's feminist credentials are not intact, unfortunately. Because again, obviously fantastic that nothing happened when she wasn't of legal age, but that is quite weird and a bit groomy. And you know, they married when she was 22 and he was 37. And I mean, listen, I think they did have a relationship, and you know, they had a kid who unfortunately passed away when like 6 weeks after he was born and stuff, and I think that put a toll on them. But that really made me disappointed, although apparently this song wasn't about her. Apparently it's about Carmen Electra. So apparently when Prince was dating Carmen Electra, who knows what he was doing, she said, I went out with a guy, I hadn't slept with this person, and Prince found out. He said, I wrote this song about you, and then he played I Hate You. So can you imagine? What
a way to propose.
What a way to let your feelings be known. So yeah, what do you think, Fran?
There's another interesting interview around for 94 when the whole like I'm No Longer Prince came out. He said yes to an MTV interview, but he wore a mesh mask and refused to speak to the interviewer, and his then girlfriend had to speak for him. And it's like, what are you doing, mate? What are you doing? I believe the slave thing happened post George Michael. I think he was the first person to sort of fight back, and it was during a time when Prince was making more music than he was supposed to. So he's supposed to make an album a year, then tour and promote it. But he was getting frustrated because by the time he would go on tour, he had made 2 new albums and didn't want to promote an album he made 2 albums ago. But Warner Brothers refused him to release those records. So he was then saying he's a slave because he can't release what he wants to release. Hence why the slave malarkey. I think ended about 1996, so then he went on his own label. But yeah, I had never heard the song before. I think it's from the Gold Experience. I say like an experience. The song Gold is a decent pop song. Not that one.
had to be done when you left a gap.
Prince hates it, and it's not the best of. So yeah, have you seen the film Coming to America?
No.
I know references to it and stuff, but yeah.
Well, there's a band called Sexual Chocolate, which is an on purposey shit R&B band when he breaks it down and starts talking to the audience, which I think is where Flight of the Conchords got it from too, and this reminds me of Sexual Chocolate. It's a great showcase for his vocals and guitar playing, not for his lyrics. It lacks any magic. The reason why the guitar cuts out at the end, because I think on the album it goes into a new piece of music. That's why it suddenly cuts out. But yeah, I'd be happy to never hear this Prince again. So moving on. What's your final piece of music?
This may be contentious. To my listeners, I'm very sorry. And I think while doing this podcast, actually, I've realised I've had this revelation that I don't have an issue with Prince per se. I have a massive issue with 90s Prince. So if we can think of him as perhaps multiple characters, I know he didn't quite have the David Bowie Ziggy Stardust thing, but my problem with him is very much 90s. So I would say that's his overrated era. And so, of course, the classic 90s tune is The Most Beautiful Girl in the World. And I feel as though I really want to like this song. For a musician who is so accomplished, and for somebody who was renowned for his quirky, slightly, genderqueer and almost a little bit perverted reputation, I feel like it's such an insipid tune. And yeah, it's so popular. I don't understand why. I'm sure that maybe somebody can enlighten me, but I know I'm thinking of somebody in particular that I know where it's one of their favourite songs, and we had quite a fierce discussion about why I didn't appreciate Prince. But yeah, and to be honest with this one, I've got very good justifications for the previous four, but with this one, sometimes it does just come down to personal taste, and I just don't like it.
That's perfectly fine. Don't worry. We don't get any venomous emails to this.
We're not big enough, so don't worry about it.
You're in a safe place. Oh. Annie, greatest song of all time? Or...
not greatest song of all time.
No.
And I don't think it's necessarily his most musically adept piece, but I do quite like it because it does have that very late 90s rom-com vibe to it, and as someone who grew up watching those kind of films, I automatically in my head I'm there in the final scene, and so it does cheer me up when I hear it.
So you can imagine this in She's All that sort of era.
Yeah.
Babs, I will save my thoughts. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm with Becky on this one. It's most definitely overplayed. I think it's probably big because it is a catchy chorus, but I think it's overplayed, and yeah, I'm not a fan. I think the only thing that was kind of new to me, I forgot there was like a bit of a DJ Scratch breakdown, which I enjoyed because that was a little bit different. But it is a kind of cheesy ballad basically, which is not my vibe. But I will say that his eyeliner and eyeshadow in the music video are amazing. Great stuff. Great cat's eye eyeliner. And yeah, the video is a bit of a weird one because it's basically him with his backing band, and there are lots of women, who I guess are meant to be the most beautiful women in the world, but some of them are looking at themselves on a screen, some are looking at other people. So there's this one woman who's looking on as Nona Gay, who's Marvin Gaye's daughter, becomes president for some reason. It doesn't really make much sense. I'm like, okay, I see what you're trying to do here, but it's a little bit surreal. So yeah, Becky, you're not alone.
That's nice to know.
I was not a fan of this, and the same with the song Diamonds and Pearls. It was really bland. So I always thought this was a cover. For some reason, I thought this was like a 1970s band, like the Commodores or the Pasadenas, just because it's so like saccharine. So I was surprised that it actually was written by Prince, and in that sort of same era, he's coming out saying you sexy motherfucker, but this is just, this is a mother hugger. This is, this is, silky smooth nice Prince, and I don't like it at all. Yeah, I like my Prince edgy, dangerous, and with some stockings. So yeah, this is not for me, unfortunately. Yeah, so yeah, I think you're right. The 80s Prince is by far the most interesting era of Prince, and it's a shame that his flame burnt out. And I've not even listened to the noughties. He could have some fabulous albums in the noughties. I've never dabbled, but it does seem like he had 10 years of being this brilliant performer, songwriter, and then slowly it fizzled out, unfortunately. So yeah, I guess I know Becky's going to say that he's overrated, but Annie, what's your thoughts? Is he over or underrated, Prince?
I would say that he's like a lot of, and I would say that I would also argue that quite a lot of iconic musicians are slightly overrated because they become more than the music. And if you're just judging them on the music, his music's a bit hit and miss. So I would say he is quite overrated.
Babs?
Going on this playlist, yeah, definitely overrated. But as with so many of our overrated acts, especially the ones who have a big back catalogue, I can't believe there isn't a good playlist out there. I had no idea he had a hip hop element. I guessed he was new wave, but in a Prince new wave way. Like when I think of songs like, I don't know, Kiss or something like that, like it would maybe fall under that, but I wouldn't think that. So, Becky, you did a great choice picking some not great songs. Although I loved Batdance. Like if it had been 5 Batdances, I might not have put him overrated. So overrated for now.
Thank you.
If you listen to the song called When You Are Mine, as I think Cyndi Lauper covered, that's a great early cut from Prince. I recommend.
I've heard the Cyndi version. And I like the Cyndi version because I've got a very big soft spot for Cyndi Lauper. So.
But yeah, I can make a mixed CD of brilliant Prince, but I think if you're looking at his entire back catalogue, is he perfect? Not at all. So yeah, slightly overrated for me.
Hello, this is a promo for a podcast about a playlist.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's called Playlist. Yeah. My name's Mike Lash, former actor, former comedian, former creative, former cool dude. This is
Kerry Mitchell, former musician, former art student, current cool dude.
We've created a playlist, a fucking brilliant playlist.
The best playlist ever, to the point where we spoke to each other about how good the playlist is, and that we wanted to be the people at a party who's putting on the music and only putting on a few seconds of the music before changing the song, because everyone loves those guys at a party.
That's us. So each week we have a guest and they have to choose one song to define them as a human person. One song for me, Mike Lash, to sing right after.
And then, because Mike is not the best person in his family, we've incorporated his mum to give her insight into each song, which will maybe help the guest to define themselves as a person.
But really, we probably shouldn't get bogged down in the format of the podcast. It's really heavily edited, so it's not actually that boring. It's quite short, so I really think you'll like it. Kerry's kids are home, so it's probably the end of this promo.
It is. What was it? www.playlistshare.com. And available wherever you get your podcasts.
Underrated.
So Annie, I believe this is your choice.
It is, yeah.
So tell us why you chose Jill Tracy as your underrated.
I chose her for a couple of reasons. One, she's a relatively recent discovery for me. I only came across her in the last year or so, and she was one of the few artists that I've come across recently that's made me want to go and find out more and hit and listen to more of her stuff, which has been quite rare recently to sort of brand new artists. And the other reason I think she's underrated and I picked her was because one of the things I love about her is the fact that she's never signed with a big record label or anything like that, because she refuses to be pigeonholed into a genre of music. And I think it takes a lot of bravery for a musician to go, no, I'm going to turn down that guaranteed money and go out on my own way. So those are the two main reasons I picked her in particular.
Becky, have you ever heard of Jill Tracy before this podcast? Or
I've had a listen to some of her music before. Annie actually introduced me to her, and is very clever, very intricate, very beautiful music. So I was very impressed, but I don't know much about kind of the background context. In fact, it was only while we were talking over supper that I learned that she's self-propelled in a way that many artists aren't. So yeah.
Babs, any thoughts?
So yeah, I'd never heard of her, and when I saw kind of visually what she looked like before anything else, I was like, was this going to be Amanda Palmer, Chelsea Wolfe, Karen Ann, Julie Cruz, you know, those kind of sort of alternative vibes. And you know, she is on playlists called things like steampunk ambient and dark cabaret, and I think a lot of people have called her neo cabaret, which makes sense. I think once you listen to her music, like she's a very clearly interesting and unique artist. So I read a few interviews about her, and it says Jill Tracy is known for traveling to unusual locales to research and compose spontaneous music, including the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia to compose alone amidst glass cases of skeletons and specimens, as well as abandoned buildings in San Francisco's historical Presidio, a 1700s military base purported as one of the most haunted locations in the country. Okay. Okay, we've got it. And I really like her description on Spotify, which I don't know if you've seen, but the first paragraph is, Jill Tracy will transport you into a seductive and magical realm far beyond the everyday. Everyday is capitalized. The place we wished we lived. A dark, elegant netherworld full of hidden passageways, wonder cabinets, and opium dens. Of monsters, marvels, and mayhem. You know it's not safe here, but with Jill Tracy as your guide, you'll be in no hurry to leave. So I was very intrigued and was, you know, before listening to the playlist, I was like, okay, I'm getting these vibes off her, but will it match it? And yeah, let's see. How about you, Fran? Had you heard of her?
So from the name Jill Tracy, I thought, okay, is this going to be like a singer-songwriter folk artist? And not at all. It's for the music she creates. She's gone with us. I thought she may have used a different name, like a pseudonym, like a more like a spooky DeVille sort of name. But
Spooky
yeah,
DeVille.
yeah, spooky, yeah. That's the name of my side project.
Say, yeah.
But yeah, I've listened to a couple of podcasts, and she's talking about like she likes to record in unique places, and she believes that the sonic residue will help her music, and the residue of ghosts will fall onto her piano and create a sound space. So I don't think Prince even did this. And yeah, and you know, like it's a lot of Parisian theatre. I think she does acting as well, and I guess this is only a part of her art. I think she does a lot more than just music. I was actually quite interested that she says her influences are all male British singers. So she's a fan of Robert Smith, well, that makes sense, but she loves David Sylvian, as you've mentioned in the previous podcast, and Brian Ferry, which I thought was interesting. And she says she likes how their voices are not brilliant, and they, you know, like for example, they sing kind of off-key.
Open throat.
Yeah, but she doesn't. But her own vocals, I wouldn't say it was anything like Brian or David. On a first name basis with them. But yeah, I was quite surprised when I listened to it and thought, oh, this is very theatrical and you know and filmic, really, isn't it? And yeah, I was curious to get into the playlist. So Annie, tell us why you chose these 5 songs. What was your thoughts behind it?
So the first one, Evil Night Together, was the very first song that I heard of hers, and I heard it in the background on a program which I have long since forgotten what the program was, but it made me go search the piece of music out. I mean, I'm a big fan of filmic music, film noir music, anything sort of that crosses that jazz cabaret boundaries anyway. So it's very me, especially the rhythmic piano and things like that. But it was the first piece I heard, and it just inspired me to go dig a bit further and look her up, which, as I said, when I listened to it at the time, I was going through a bit of a creative dry space myself. So it was very much like, oh, I'm feeling inspired again. And it's all down to this one piece of music that just got me sort of researching again and going, oh yes, no, I get it, and enjoying the sort of that side of music again.
Are you a composer yourself?
Yes.
What sort of music do you create?
Most of the stuff I've done, I come from a very classical background, but I tend towards jazz and folk. So it kind of, most of the stuff I've done has been kind of soundscapey, slightly folky feel to it, and often for vocals and choirs and things like that in the past. And I'm currently working on a piece which is to go with an art exhibition to go on in the background in a mill.
Which is amazing.
As you do.
Very cool.
And wonderful. And I should add as well, Annie is like professional level musician with a degree in music as well. So like she's got the theory as well as the practice.
Yes,
so
I am a theory geek.
Yes.
You're highly decorated compared to us.
I will
Yokes.
say my proudest moment, hopefully Annie you will empathize, I got 95 out of 100 on my grade 5 music theory, and honestly there are fewer highs, but that's as far as I went. I did my grade 6 violin and then that was it. So but still that was hard, and I meet it's this very nerdy kid who was doing it at the same time as me, so fuck you Max. No, not fuck you Max, but there we go.
On 5 chords on a guitar.
Well, yeah, we're all pulling our weight here.
So thank you very much. Sorry. You're discussing your playlist options for Jill Tracy.
Evil Night Together was the first one I heard, and I just love the complexity of the harmonies and the kind of mood that it gave. And yeah, I can't remember where it was I heard it, but I could just remember that standout piece, and it inspired me to go searching.
Do you want to introduce Evil Night?
Evil Night Together.
Yes, this is I like this because of the darkness. I think it kind of, she balances this line between sort of the shadow and the light in a lot of her pieces, and it's got this lovely clunky piano and sort of very nostalgic sort of film noir kind of feel to it, as well as this kind of cabaret, and being a lover of cabaret and that kind of slightly on the edge all the time sort of thing. I really like this piece, and yes, she inspired me to go move on somewhere else and find more of her pieces. And
Becky, what were your thoughts when you first heard this?
I was astounded. It was not what I was expecting. It was a lot more intricate and interesting than I'd expected. So I am not educated in music like Annie. I just enjoy listening, and you know, I play a bit of guitar, a bit of cello, but none of them well. But I normally love quite kind of jagged, rough, kind of like fierce music, I'd say. And I listened to this, and it was very, it was beautiful in a way that music I enjoy often isn't. So it was very pleasant. So, yeah, and dark. So yes.
Babs?
So yeah, I find it interesting that Becky said this wasn't what she expected. This was kind of exactly what I expected. Again, having seen her look out, the piano started, and I was like, okay, we're in for this song at least, and it was the first one that I listened to. So the piano, I was like, yeah, it is kind of cabaret vibes, but her voice took me by surprise. I thought it was very mellifluous and very menacing here, and a nice kind of combination with the piano. And Annie, I think the TV show that you saw it on was Dexter, because it did soundtrack Dexter.
Oh yeah, it could well be.
Yeah, and it is her most popular song on Spotify. So it's got 1.28 million listens. Wow. So probably, you know, it's probably on some playlists or something. So yeah, when I was listening to it, I was like, okay, this isn't really my kind of thing, because, you know, all the artists I mentioned before, I'm you know, they're fine, but I'm not, you know, a huge fan. But I imagine that, you know, seeing it live or putting it on a film or TV show, it would go very well. And yeah, when I saw that it was on Dexter, I was like, yeah, serial killer thing makes sense.
We previously guested on a Tom Waits podcast, and yes. I'm getting some Tom Waits
I've
vibes.
got Tom Waits vibes for later songs. Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, it's got like a timeless quality. I mean, this is the late 90s. This is the era of Destiny's Child and No Scrubs, and this is not that at all. Yeah, the breathy vocals. It may be a bit too over-theatrical for me, but I'm a big fan of film soundtracks, and I can admire the cinematic quality. And I didn't know this was on Dexter, but I put here this would be fantastic for a late night TV theme. So for like sci-fi or B movies, that kind of thing. So yeah. So what's your next pick, Annie?
Next pick is Hour After Hour, and this is a slightly earlier piece of hers, and I particularly like this one because it always, every time I hear it, it leaves me feeling slightly unsettled. There's something in the way that the piano and the voice almost seem to, they do work together, but they almost seem to be slightly off as it goes through the piece, and I love the fact that it's just her and a piano, and yet she manages to create this sort of very unsettled atmosphere, and there's no special effects, there's no added orchestra, it's just her and a piano, and I like the kind of stripped backness of that.
Becky, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's musical minimalism, isn't it, really, I guess. So yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I think I prefer kind of more, I don't know, like a bit more substance. Well, it's not substance, but you know what I mean, like a bit more texture, I'd say personally. But I did enjoy it. I liked it, and I think her work, it continues to be surprising and very interesting. So yes.
Is this from her debut album?
Yes.
With each album, does the sound change much? You're saying it's quite sparse, but does she change textures at all per album, or?
The ones that I can find, she always has this underlying sort of darkness to it, but she adds layers and things like that. And certainly in her later albums, she's adds cello and strings and various other things around it. It's never massively it's never a massive musical thing, but she does add more with her. Each album gets a little bit more complex.
So she's not added any samples at a Batdance or anything?
No.
Not yet. Well, that's what your thoughts.
I much preferred this. I really enjoyed this kind of simpler offering of just piano and vocals, and her voice sounds much softer and sultry, which is, I don't know, it just worked for me a bit more. And yeah, despite it not being my usual cup of tea, I really like this song. But I will say I left Spotify for Tidal. It is not on Tidal. It is only on Spotify. So come on, Jay-Z or whoever's in charge of it. I would like to save it there. And looking at the lyrics, I've written, well, they're pretty lyrical. I'm great with pseudonyms. This is why I work in communications. But yeah, the lyrics are: you live inside a clock. I feel your hands upon my face, choking on the aftertaste of time. Should the ticking stop, just watch my heart disintegrate into these fragments you've embedded in your mind. Like, what, you hear them as well, because it really is just her and a piano. So yeah, I really like this song, kind of surprisingly, for me. Yeah,
I thought it's more straightforward than the first one. Again, it's very out of time. It's in its own era. I wanted to ask, have you seen her perform live? I wonder if this would work better in a live experience, because she says that she was doing some theatre work where she would be killed on stage every night and then to come on and perform, and I guess that would work if that's with the whole gothness of it. I think maybe without that, for me, I think it needed a little bit more. I think it's a bit too sparse for me. I think maybe if I was in a room with like candle lighting and that sort of, I'd be into it a little bit more. Have you seen her live, or
no, I haven't.
On YouTube too?
I've seen,
let's go find her and see her live.
There isn't. She's quite hard to find on things like YouTube and stuff, which I think adds in to my mind. That kind of adds to her appeal. But I think you're right. She conjures up these images of a very specific type of performance, and you kind of want the gothic candles and the dark room, and not just a sunny. It doesn't always work on a sunshiny day in an ordinary lounge. Or something.
Yeah. If this was playing, for John Lewis soundtrack, I don't think it would work. Would it? So she's very much a San Francisco artist, isn't she? Is that right?
Yeah.
So do you know, does she do like tours of the world, or is it just mainly?
I believe she's done them in the past, obviously not that recently, but she does these things that she terms sonic seances, and where she will go and perform, and it's the spontaneous improvised music based on, I'm the last person in the world to get into the whole seance kind of otherworldliness. But having said that, as a composer, I compose very visually. I see a place or something, and that's what makes the sound. So I can see a similarity there. And certainly when she spent a night in the Medical Museum in Philadelphia, I would have loved to have done a similar thing, because for me it's like objects or a place will make the music in the head rather than necessarily just random inspiration.
I just wanted to add that I read that she's hailed as the belle of the ball for the Edwardian ball. Did you guys read about this?
No, that's one thing I haven't read about it. No.
So I'd never heard of this ball before. So it's dedicated to the late writer and artist Edward Gorey, who I'd also not heard of, but he has quite kind of, again, maybe I'm being very simplistic here, but let's say steampunky, gothy illustrations. And looking at the pictures, it is kind of that vibe, people all dressed up and stuff. So I think if she is the belle of the ball, I'm guessing she performs there, if not every year, then regularly. And I think it would be a very good atmosphere to catch her music in for sure.
She hasn't made an album for like 12 years. Was that the Spotify's stats?
She's made EPs and singles, I think. But yeah.
So to your next track, what have you got?
Okay, so this is Whispers Behind the Glass. This is completely different, but this is one of her newer pieces. It was written during lockdown, and it is just piano and very minimal piano, very different from her other work. Although having said that, it's very reminiscent of some of the sort of early 20th century French composers like Satie and people like that, because it's got that minimal repeated rhythms, and it's very, I think it's a mood, it sets a mood, and it certainly sets that sort of mood I think that a lot of us felt during 2020, of being sort of everything just being on one level and still and alone, and it just makes you feel calm when you listen to it.
Becky, does it make you feel calm?
I love it. I think it's a beautiful piece and very well constructed and carefully composed. So yes, I'm in total agreement with you on this one. So it's perfect in my opinion.
Babs, is it perfect for you?
I absolutely love this. And it's good to get it confirmed that the classical music inspirations, because I wrote this feels like modern classical music to me. I would not be so knowledgeable as to kind of know that it was Satie or anything like that, but I thought it was really atmospheric and lovely, and I immediately added it to my chilled playlist. And it was interesting to read about her approach to writing music in 2020. So I think it's very rare actually for us to have instrumental songs on the podcast, and I enjoyed that. And when she talks about the music she wrote in 2020, I think not necessarily this, because she did quite a few kind of singles and EPs. She said it just seemed like to add a vocal or write lyrics was unnecessary. I didn't need to supply a narrative because everyone out there was going through something profound and devastating, frightening, life-changing, and they all had their own stories. They were living it, so I didn't need to tell them how to feel. So I think it's deliberately, I think, a piece for people to reflect their own worries and desires on. And I also find it really interesting to read about an EP that she did in 2020 that she recorded as the Californian wildfires were happening around her. So she said, she woke up, she saw this orange sky, it was apoplectic, and she just decided, like, right, I've got to sit down and record. And so she recorded, I think, all day, and then released an EP called A Dark Day, which is all music from that day. So she's a very creative and interesting woman, and this was a lovely surprise. So thank you, Annie.
Randomly, this was the first song I listened to, just because, and I thought maybe it was like an Audi. Maybe we had a complete instrumental. I mentioned the band Japan earlier. There's a song called Night Porter by Japan, which is very similar. David Sylvan's a big fan of Debussy. I don't know if Debussy would be an influence of this as well. I've not heard much Debussy. It's sparse, spooky. I like how it builds up in the middle and then gently goes to bed as it goes on. I don't know if you are on a date and bring someone back home, if this is a good track to play. Or maybe that's Batdance again, I don't know.
Maybe both.
So, what's your next track?
Okay, so fourth one, Sell My Soul, it's a return to, very similar to Evil Night Together. It's that sort of cabaret, dark side. But this one, I think it really showcases her perfectly imperfect voice, because she's got a voice that does change as she goes up and down the octaves. And as someone who spent years being yelled at by various singing teachers for changing my voice as you go up and down the octaves, because when you sing classically, that's not allowed. You should be smooth, and it appealed to the rebellious side of me. And also it reminded me of a conversation I had with a fellow singer who's also a great jazz pianist. And she was talking about how we're losing that imperfectness of a lot of the great jazz singers. If you listen to them and you analyze their voices, they're not perfect by any technical standard, but their music is just phenomenal, and the feeling is amazing, and that's what's more important than having the perfect arc of voice. And I just like that it showcases various parts of her voice, and she's got a very kind of distinctive, you'd know it was her a mile off whatever she was singing. She's got this very distinctive almost whisper voice, and then she can just sort of lift it up or down, and I think Sell My Soul really showcases that one.
Yeah, there's no vocoder happening here, so it's all real. So was your teacher a bit like Whiplash? Were you singing too
No, she was actually lovely, but it was at the time when I was learning. It was the convention in classical singing that when you were singing for exam or something like that, you had to have a very indiscernible change between your chest and your head voice, and that it should be a smooth arc all the way up. And it took me ages and ages after leaving university to learn that it's okay not to have that texture, add that texture to change as you go up or down as it goes.
So Becky, do you have a perfect singer voice, and also what's your thoughts on the song?
I think the song's very it's interesting. I was thinking it's kind of got, I don't know, if Elliott Smith and the Dresden Dolls and Katie Jane Garside had a child, and then, I don't know, Ticket to One Too Many Goth Nights, you'd get this song. It's wonderful, and I really like that. I like kind of the combination of the and the nature of her voice as well. It's very interesting, very good. But yeah, she's very distinctive, isn't she?
Yes.
I like that, especially because I can think of quite a few men who break that kind of traditional like way of singing, and who have quite distinctive voices, but fewer women. So I think that's another really interesting thing.
Babs?
So when I first listened to it, I felt similar to Evil Night Together, because I wasn't liking the piano so much. That is a kind of piano sound that I don't really like. But on re-listen, I really appreciated the drums and the strings and the journey the kind of the song takes you on. So, you know, I kind of tried not to focus on the piano so much, and I could only do that on re-listen. So by the end, I did kind of appreciate it, even if, you know, say I didn't save it to my library. And this might be a strange comment, but I almost felt this sounded like trip hop, really. Like if Massive Attack did piano, I think they would do something like this, which is not at all what I would expect. But I don't know. There's an atmosphere that she creates that is similar to me, that of trip hop, even though trip hop is obviously much more electronic. And Fran, this was the Tom Waits one for me that I put the comment on as well. So clearly a lot going on.
But when we did our trip hop, we decided that Massive Attack are quite sinister in style.
Yes.
So So I can hear that. I think this is probably my favourite of the list. I think this may be the most commercial. It's got more of a fuller band sound. I also put down the Dresden Dolls, because, you know, if you mix like that piano and that drum sound, that they come to mind. The drums play a starring role. I think it's got a Cure style chorus to it. I can imagine Robert Smith delivering that. Clive Barker's a big fan, and he described the song as saying that Jill Tracy creates an elegant netherworld that is both seductive and terrifying. So
sounds about right.
Yep, sounds right. So yes, I enjoyed this. What's your final track?
The final track is Doomsday Serenade, because this one in particular, I think, really showcases her ability to walk that line between shadow and light, because it couldn't be a more depressing or sort of terrifying subject, and yet the actual feel to it throughout most of the song is actually quite light-hearted. I grew up on quite a lot of comic songs, and in particular I have parents, a mother and a grandfather, who were very, very big fans of Tom LaHaye, and I regularly sang Poisoning Pigeons in the Park and various other things as part of my recitals and stuff, because I was never very good at the grand opera stuff, so I went with the comic instead. And it just reminds me, although it doesn't have the comic element, it reminds me of this kind of, it's this balance between dark and light, and the doomsday subject matter, and then this very light-hearted piano feel, slightly musical cabaret feel to this whole song.
Becky, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's an intriguing tune, isn't it? I always quite like that dissonance when you have somber lyrics and then kind of a poppy tune. I think it's one of the things that keeps me still listening to, for example, the Smiths, even though I have beefs. Big beefs with
Do you? I wonder why.
So unassuming, Morrissey.
But yeah, I really like that difference. I think that works very effectively, and I'm grateful to you for introducing me.
Babs?
I'm sorry to bring down the vibe, but this was easily my least favorite. I think especially because there's this kind of Rachmaninoff start, and I was like, oh, hello, and then it's pure cabaret, and I was like, oh, that's not what I was expecting from this piano, and it sounded very honky tonk. And I went to look at the lyrics, and I was like, yeah, but musically, really, I'm afraid not my vibe. See, I thought it was going to be 5 tracks like this, and I was worried. So I'm glad that it wasn't. And yeah, I do understand kind of why people would like this, but it's not my cup of tea, I'm afraid.
Yeah, there's more violins on this. It sounds like 1920 Chicago. A bit jazzy, like the femme fatale sort of sound. Like, who said romance is dead when you're going to have lyrics like, we tiptoe through the carcasses and bones. Lovely stuff.
I like
tiptoe, very delicate, yeah.
Yeah, there's that famous song, isn't it? We'll meet again, don't know what. I wonder if it's a play on that, is that on purpose? But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I mean, it's not really my genre. I'm more like S Club 7.
Sure.
So, it's a bit too much for me. But yeah, I totally enjoyed it. And I think this music would be great with a backdrop of, a visual to go with it. And I know she does do a lot of videos on YouTube, so that makes a lot of sense to me. So I know what Annie's feelings are, but Becky, over or underrated?
I think underrated, and I think it was. I'm very glad that you introduced me to someone who's such a kind of versatile artist. But I love a show tune. I love cabaret, and I love the Dresden Dolls so much. Amanda Palmer. Oh my goodness, I love her. So I quite enjoy how theatrical she is. In fact, I prefer her overblown tunes to her ones that are simpler. Perhaps apart from the piano piece. So it's a big yes, underrated for me, but perhaps I need more time for it to ferment. I mean, I've had a lifetime of being able to decide whether I dislike Prince or not, so perhaps I just need more time.
Babs, have you had enough time to make your choice?
Yeah, I mean, I prepared for this today, but I do think it's underrated. There are some beautiful songs on that playlist. Yeah, I think my favorite is maybe, the least kind of Jill Tracy song, The Whispers Behind the Glass. But I think anytime that someone can recommend music that is not in my genre and I get something out of it, of course I'm going to say that underrated, especially when I've never heard of them. She has only just over 12,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. And yeah, I think I didn't hate her more theatrical songs, but I think like Fran and like other people were saying, I would need visuals for those. Kind of just musically by itself, it doesn't do much for me, but her playing piano is absolutely beautiful, and she's clearly very talented, and yeah, it makes me want to go and check out her 2020 music, really, if it's kind of all instrumental and stuff like that. So yeah, lots to explore, and thanks Annie for bringing her on.
The reason why we started this podcast was to discover new music and give an audience to, a kind of audience to be sometimes undiscovered artists. And yeah, again, I would have never come across Jill Tracy in my day-to-day life, especially in the world of Spotify giving me the same genre again and again and again. So that's what I miss about having music friends when I worked in record stores, is that you get introduced to things you wouldn't ever discover yourself. And yeah, it's great to be introduced to Jill Tracy. I love film soundtracks. I'm a horror fan. I like the Dresden Dolls. I like the Smiths. I like the Cure and David Sylvian. So yeah, I was happy to discover Jill Tracy. And yeah, I looked at the Spotify stats, and yeah, 12,000 a month is pretty low. So yeah, she needs to be heard by more people. So I would say underrated. And thank you for introducing us to her.
Okay, thank you.
Becky and Annie, is there anything you'd like to plug, whether something that you're doing or some other musicians that you think we should go and check out? Let us know.
She does have an amazing gallery called Wise Heart and Wild, so if you want to pop in and come and meet a brilliant creative artist and musician. She is there at White
every new Mills.
Beautiful things. And on the topic of Doomsday, if you like to read about catastrophe, there is my award-winning book, Disarming Doomsday, that is out there in Waterstones, that is all about terrible things that could happen and hopefully won't. So yes, but oh my god, I don't normally plug myself.
There's no shame. It's fine.
Annie, where is your gallery located?
It's located in New Mills in Derbyshire. In the UK. So bang spot in the middle of the country, about half an hour's train ride from Manchester.
There we go. And yeah, Becky, tell us more about the disarming. What was it called? Disarming
Doomsday. It's a complete compendium of nuclear culture. So it even has a little bit of the Smiths in there. I'll let you work out which song and why. But basically, it's kind of a cultural and social history of nuclear war, past, present, and future, if you can have a future cultural history. And I wrote it, and if people are interested, it's out there.
I think Jill Tracy sounds like an ideal soundtrack to that.
Exactly, yeah, no wonder I liked her. It was perfect music to write my next book to.
Have you decided on what song you'd like to hear if there's a 4-minute warning?
That's a really good question. Probably, I don't know, something by the Sex Pistols, because I'll be in a really bad mood. And also it's nice and short. Definitely not Prince, or maybe actually, because it'll get cut off at just the right moment.
And what a cheerful note to end the podcast. Fran, anything you'd like to finish on?
Yeah, check out Mark Owen's song 4-minute warning. See as many bands as you can, and like we have here, don't be scared of trying new genres. Ask people to introduce you to new music. It's a boring life on streaming services when they tell you to listen to the same songs again and again and again. So always try new music, because you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. Go down. I think Bandcamp is a good one for that. Go on Bandcamp, click on a random tag, click on a random region, and you'll go down a good rabbit hole. I mean, I love Bandcamp articles as well, which is like, I don't know, the best psych rock in Croatia today, and you're like, brilliant. Okay, I know nothing about this. Let's fucking go. Do that. I'm with you, Fran. Oh yeah, like I said, by region as well. Like I've got so many kind of like Icelandic indie, Slovenian punk rock, and you're like, yeah, I would have never heard this otherwise. Like that is the benefit of streaming services. Don't just go on the top 50s and you'll discover weeklies. Go beyond that. Good message, Fran.
Until next time, guys. Goodbye.
Bye.
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 There we go. Another Sacred Cow slayed by Over, Underrated, and guests. Do you agree that Prince is overrated? Do you think you could make that playlist for Babs, perhaps, of good songs? If so, get in touch with us. You can follow us at OU Music Pod on Twitter while it's still here with us, and at Over Underrated Music Pod on Instagram, or you can email us overunderatedmusicpod@gmail.com. Dr. Becky Alexis-Martin and Annie Greatorex plugged a lot of different things there in the outro, so I really recommend you looking at the show notes to see all the various things that they're doing. And we hope you have a fabulous week and a fabulous rest of year. Toodaloo.